What is the strangest thing you've seen someone do on public transport? We were riding the DART rail in Dallas to the State Fair of Texas. There was a meth crazy guy on there that kept staring at my 1-year-old son and repeating in a low, creepy voice, "He will not take you, but he will take the child. He will not take you, but he will take the child." Needless to say, we were not happy. We just wanted funnel cakes, not threats of demonic kidnapping. Giant homeless woman started to bathe herself on the F train. She stripped down on a moderately full car and used 2-gallon jugs of spring water and a roll of paper towels. Little rivulets of homeless lady funk streaked across the floor as everyone raised their feet, wishing the train would come to a stop quickly. I saw an elderly lady pull out a can of Lysol, spray her armpits, then lift up her skirt and spray it between her legs. No reaction or acknowledgement for what she just did. I moved to the next car. I stayed in Istanbul for a month. During that time, I came to the conclusion that some women lean back to avoid harassment. My first encounter was very weird though. It was very crowded and there were only 2 other girls there. Without saying anything, they wiggled their way to me and both leaned back on my back. Not gonna lie, I was quite spooked. Haven't experienced it anywhere else. Edit: to avoid further confusion, I want to add that I'm a girl. A woman on the London Tube brought 3 live ducks in harnesses onto the carriage. They were just stood there chilling and quacking away. A guy was standing next to me with a model train modeled after the V-Line trains in Victoria, Australia that he just bought. Proceeded to strike up a conversation with me, telling me about how he was bitten by a dog, sued the owner and used the money he got to buy the model. He even showed me both the bite wound and took the model out of its box to show me. A strange experience, but also quite interesting. I once saw an elderly guy pushing an old man in a wheelchair in the underground. The man in the wheelchair wore sunglasses, not a sunny day, and had staring eyes behind them. He also had his feet crossed in a way no old man would have. His hands were really pale and folded on his lap. I could not see him breathing. But the strangest thing was that the elderly man was holding the old man's head the whole time. Not gently, but really holding it with his 2 hands as if it would fall off. I still don't know if he was dead, a puppet, or really sick. But it was somehow really scary. 2 guys get on the same train carriage as me. I'm sitting behind them. It's mid-morning and the train is quite full on this Western Sydney line. Nonchalantly they pull out a kit consisting of syringes and spoon and cook up right there and then. They have their hit and then proceed to each spark up a smoke and not even acknowledge the other passengers. Someone must have called the police because a couple of stops later the cops met the train and come and pulled the guys off. I saw a young woman get on, early mid-20s, obliterated on drugs. She sat far back behind me so I didn't hear anything, and the next thing I know some musclehead is yelling for the bus driver to stop the bus and was manhandling an old mid-50s guy off the bus. Musclehead started yelling, "Get this creep off the bus, he's back there kissing a passed out girl." Although in 10 years taking the bus this is the most I've ever witnessed happen, so the bus is genuinely a safe place to be. Little did you know his biggest muscle was actually his heart. I live in Detroit and I saw a grown man pull a fish out of a bag and slap a girl with it. Honestly, I was scared for my life. Not just a couple of Python fans. So that's how programmers behave? Dude across from me takes everything out of his backpack while kind of muttering to himself. I figure he's looking for something. He then proceeds to put the backpack on his head. Guess he needed to take a closer look. That last line sounded like a dad joke and it made me chuckle. A guy kept yelling no! Exclamation mark. Every time the bus stopped at a bus stop. He yelled yes! Exclamation mark. When the bus stopped at his stop. I saw a guy about 15 years old, chubby and always wearing a light blue t-shirt entering a bus line I was taking a few years ago, actually several times. When the bus stopped and the driver opened the door, he just stood there with his little suitcase, staring at me or another passenger and said, "Take my suitcase in." No please, no, can you, just a straight order. I thought that he had some kind of disability and that he couldn't carry heavy objects, but once I grabbed his suitcase it was pretty light and as I said, he was not looking like a weak guy. I expect everyone to be able to do this on his or her own. This happens several times and I have no explanation why this guy always had his little suitcase with him and why he always wanted others to carry it for basically 1 foot and also why he was behaving this strangely. Kinda late, but it would have to be DDLG roleplay. Both were mid-30s and heavy-set, dressed like middle school weebs, and the lady even had a pacifier. She kept asking her daddy repeatedly, baby voice and all, if they were at the park yet. That's not even the worst part of it. She would give her pacifier to her partner and he'd slob on it heavily and put it back in her mouth for her. And she would make this weird crooning noise. I'm shivering already just remembering. A guy on a train seesawing back and forth saying, "I will kill everyone, everyone. The streets will be flooded with blood. The day will come close. I will kill everyone, no mercy, no survivors, a feast for everyone. Even the innocent will die." And so on. Did he stick to his word? This really well-dressed lady in a business suit stood up and started taking out newspapers to put on the floor. She pulled her pants down, took a shit, wrapped it up and casually stuffed the soiled newspaper into her handbag like it was nothing. The bus driver was yelling at her the whole time and she didn't give a shit. Scanned her card and got off at the next stop. Not strange but amazing. A girl with no arms, below her elbows, sat in front of me. She was carrying her lunch in a 7-Eleven plastic bag. She opened her bag, took out a sandwich, that kind that you get in 7-Eleven, opened it and started eating it. Also she took out a juice box, put the straw in it and started drinking. She enjoyed half her sandwich before she noticed that her stop was coming. She wrapped the sandwich carefully, put the juice box and the sandwich in the plastic bag, stood up and left. All without help from anybody, without making a mess, carefully and gracefully. With no hands. Using what nature gave her and with no expression of self-pity or anything like that. She was the master of her life. A woman got arrested for allegedly injecting strangers with an HIV syringe, but the whole thing was known by everyone who used public transport in my city. People made group chats just to warn each other about the HIV lady. IDK what happened to her, but hopefully she got arrested cause that week was insane and a lot of people were saying they got stung. Yeesh. Saw an elderly homeless woman get up from her seat, start yelling and screaming. Then start stripping. Unfortunately I couldn't get off the train to switch cars because she was blocking one end and the conductor was at the other end. Eventually we get to the next stop where I see police waiting. I switched cars and didn't look back. 16 months until I leave NYC. Not that I'm counting or anything. A lady with a rat in her hoodie and she was whispering to it, "Be quiet, I don't want to get in trouble again." and a guy was behind me with his phone in his beanie playing Screamo really loud in his ear. This was on the one bus. Rural Australia is weird sometimes.